Hi, everybody. This is Khalilah. If you don't know me, my name is Khalilah Bruzual, and this is My Life as a Testimony. I started this ministry about 10 years ago. Actually, probably longer. I've been doing stuff longer, but officially My Life as a Testimony started in June of 2000 and something, 10 years ago, 2010, 2010. There's a lot that I have been through and that I go through, and I want to have this conversation with you guys because we don't have a lot of platforms for us to have certain conversations. Okay, I'm going to post this out over here. And we don't get to really talk about getting through life. And that's what really my platform is about. It's about having the conversations about the things that we don't want to talk about, because when we get to talk about them, we actually find out there's normalcy in what we're thinking and what we're going through and how we're reacting. Guilt and shame is removed. There's an ability to change your mindset, to overcome, to grow yourself. And so I really want to have these conversations because I've been blessed to have people pour into me, and it's only my duty to do the same thing to other people, right? Like, we don't need to be in pain if we don't need to be in pain. And unfortunately, that's where my story begins. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel, but I'll talk about a couple of things. And from there, you're more than welcome to post questions, ask questions. Again, I'm kind of keeping an eye out on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, just remember that you can join or do a watch party right now, I think. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can share it. And if you're on Instagram, tell them that it's live, we're going. But yeah, I'm going to try and keep an eye out on these conversations. Okay, so let's talk about really life. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I normally start my conversation off with is I grew up in a place where I had a brother and a sister. My sister was actually from a different father. My brother and me were from the same parents. And my father actually had two kids from before. So I grew up in what was at that time known as a dysfunctional family, but it's the norm now. And I grew up with different things that happened to me. I grew up not realizing until I was in my later stage in life that I was being molested as a child. Growing up, I actually had a really good childhood. Like, I loved the neighborhood that I grew up in. I loved just the people that I connected with. I had some friends on the neighborhood. You guys, I don't know how old people are that are watching this, but I want to thank everybody for joining. But there was the ability to actually have a lot of different kids. I grew up with kids around me. So I grew up in what you'd think was a really good neighborhood. But some of the things that I went through was, I remember growing up good, but then things just changed for me. And my mom and my dad, they parted. And my mom, I remember my mom getting pushed through like a plate glass. And what I thought was the beginning of my interaction with what was being children's aid and foster care and things like that. Really, truthfully, over some time, when my mom got pushed through the plate glass when she was working a job and doing something, and she got hurt on the job, we had to move back with my dad. And there was this huge, to my recollection, there was just the courts, the family courts about who's going to get the kids and all this other stuff. Some of the things that I went through when I was growing up was when I was with my dad. I remember being forced to eat certain foods. Didn't like that. I don't know if you guys know what that feels like, but there are still some foods to this day still won't eat. I'm pretty sure that there's people that can understand it. You got like pushed into something and it's just something you just never liked ever again. Anyhow, also got into a place where my father, when he thought I was giving my mother information to win the court case, I was talking with her one day on the phone, and he thought I was giving her some information to win the court case. And I don't remember everything that happened, but I remember being hit with a hammer handle across my chest. I remember being pinched at my sides and being lifted up and shaken. I remember being in elementary school with my brother and having to go to what was used to be the babysitter that used to take care of us before school started, and she wouldn't let us in. She saw the marks on me and she wouldn't let us in. So not only was I hurt by somebody that was supposed to protect me, but then other people that were supposed to be helping me as well, they turned their back on me. I actually had to take my brother. And I remember sitting on, everybody knows those little concrete little pieces. They have them in the parking lots. They have them in schools. You guys know what I'm talking about. I had to actually just sit there. And I don't know how long I was sitting there, but I remember sitting there and waiting for the teacher. And the teachers that came early were wondering why I was out there so early and saw me. I remember being examined in the nurse's office. I remember going into the hospital. That's just the beginning of things. I have been in and out of group homes. Well, not like that. I have to, so much, you guys, so much. If you have questions or particular things that you want to know about, like, I'm literally opening up my life right now to you guys to talk about what it means to still stand. So I have to give you an example of what I've been through so that you can understand that I can have this conversation with you. I'm not having this conversation just to be out there and be like, la, 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 this is my business. But when you hear the testimonies, when you hear the conversations of other people, it gives you strength. And that's why we admire the people that we do, or some of the mentors that we have. But yeah, so coming back to it, there's other things that I've been through. I remember I tried to commit suicide. Yeah, it's not a big, it is a big thing. Right now, 1 in 10 people who commit suicide are successful. I'm blessed. I attempted to commit suicide because I was doing the girl thing, and I was always out and about. My mom, growing up, was a police officer. My parents were police officers back in Trinidad. I'm a Trini, yeah, man. So So my mom used to call at 4 o'clock. School used to finish at 3:30, finished at 4 o'clock. And if she called at 4:07, and you didn't pick up that phone, you were getting in trouble. And so that wasn't cool for me growing up. I don't know if you guys know, you're feeling like you're in elementary school and you want a little bit of freedom and you feel like you're growing up. And so I used to rebel. And I got to the place where, because I was rebelling, I was hanging out and I was just getting myself into a lot of trouble. And as I grew older, I was hanging out with like the local gangs that were around back in the day, big up to Tiny Toon, Looney Tune, Rexdale, like Jungle, like Regent Park, all of them people there. So we used to just hang out at the Eaton Center, but my mom didn't used to like that. And so back in the day, they used to have like all ages clubs. And that was good because you could be under 18 and get in. And I was like 16, 17 at those times. And I used to get myself to go to those things. But I got myself in trouble. There was a guy that liked me. And back in those days, you're like 17, 18, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, somebody likes me, somebody's interested in me. And me and my girl were like all excited, and he came and he picked me up one day, and he took me back to a hotel, and he raped me. And I remember being shocked and not really knowing what to do, and he actually left me there so that his boy could do something to me. But his boy didn't touch me. Thank you, Lord. And one of the things that I learned from that at that young age was the fact that when you go out as a woman, people know about this now, your loose change, your extra change, your emergency change. I didn't have it. And I had to actually wait for the same person that did what he did to me to bring me back home, because I couldn't get myself out of where I was. And that left me really in an interesting place, because I ended up pregnant from that. And I was going to actually keep the child because I didn't believe in abortions back then, but not even that. There was just something about me. I knew that I was pregnant before I was even pregnant. And what ended up happening was I wanted to keep the child. But then just before the first trimester was over, I was having really bad nightmares, being raped. I had really bad thoughts about maybe never actually how I'd love the child if I would look at the child and always think about the rape. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to put that on a child. I didn't want the child to know. I didn't want to have to explain. I didn't want to explain where she came from. Because I knew, the same way that I knew that I was pregnant, and not because I missed my period, but I knew I was pregnant, was the same way that I knew that I was having a girl. Sounds like the weirdest thing, but some people are just, you've been in tune about certain things. And so to have the nightmares and not be able to tell my mom, I didn't tell my mom. And then I have the nightmares and I told my brother, I decided that I was going to have an abortion. And I had the abortion. And I remember within a week or two after having it, I was in the tub at home one day. And me and my mom were already having issues. And she comes and she asks me, are you pregnant? And I'm sitting in the tub and I have to say to my mother, I was raped and I just had an abortion. I remember her walking up and walking out. We've never spoken about it. So that's been an interesting thing. I don't know what that must feel like for a mother to hear that that's happened to her daughter. So I remember that I was going through issues. Like, you have to think about it. You go through things. You know what I'm talking about, guys? Like, life happens and you go through things. And I got into a fight with her one day about something. And it was just after all this happened, and I got to a place where I just said, bun it, forget it, I'm out. And I, at the time, was already diagnosed. On top of everything else, I was already diagnosed with ADHD and ADD. So I was taking, if you guys know the word Ritalin, it's what they want to keep our kids calm with. Yeah, they don't need the drugs. They really just need to be understood more. We just learn differently, or we just acquire or see life different. So anyhow, I got to the place where I just wanted to give up. Does anybody know what that feels like? You want to give up. You just don't want to be part of something anymore. Like, you just can't take it anymore. You don't understand why life is like this. And I had just gotten a new bottle of Ritalin, and I took half, I crushed them, I poured them into a tall glass of lemonade, and then I took the others and I took the pills while I drank the lemonade that had already had all of half of the Ritalin in it. And I went upstairs into my room and I thought I was going to say, see ya. Apparently, the fight with my mother was so bad that the next morning when she saw me sleeping, she didn't want to wake me up because she knew, or she thought, that it would just go off again. So she just allowed me. My brother went to school, but then when he came home, apparently, and I only heard about this in the last 10 years, 10, 12 years. But apparently he went to school, came home, saw me in the same position, knew something was wrong. And so then they called the ambulance. And basically I had been out for more than half a day before they figured something out. So I don't know why I'm breathing. Well, no, I know why I'm breathing now. I'm breathing right now to tell you this story, but I'm breathing now. And it's a really interesting thing because I just remember being in the hospital afterwards. I don't remember getting to the hospital. I don't remember that stuff. So that's something that I know has probably left my brother really traumatized. And we don't ever think about what it is that we do and how that affects other people. Fast forward, I have stories upon stories upon stories. I've grown up with a learning disability. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and that's why I committed suicide. Sorry. I've grown up with learning disabilities. I've grown up with having labeled certain things. I've grown up leaving my home at 14 because things were just like abusive or bad at home, and having to stay with friends and then having to go to group homes. I've had to be in foster care. And this is all before like I'm 18. Fast forward into my 20s. I've gotten to a place where I've started to make things on my own. I didn't finish school. I had to drop out of high school. I went to an alternative school. And I got caught up with a crew and got caught up with a guy and then got caught up in having the beer store right across from the school, the liquor store at the bottom of the street, and one of my boys being the drug dealer. And so that meant that was a party every day. Why I'm telling you all this stuff, I don't know, but there's somebody that's out there listening and that can relate to this. I've gotten myself caught up in some things. I've had miscarriages. I've had boyfriends that I've lived with that could have been common law and they've cheated on me. I've had car chases. I've had a lot of different things in my 20s where I was trying to figure out life, and I didn't realize that I was trying to figure out life because nobody tells you that, you know, in your teenage years, you listen to everybody. When you're growing up in your teenage years, you're trying to learn from everybody. In your 20s, you kind of try to rebel. Didn't finish high school. Didn't finish my high school diploma until I was 29. Started getting into a lot of jobs. Now, what was really interesting was that apparently I was self-sufficient and very resilient, and I learned how to survive in this world. And they got to a place, I remember in my 20s, my late 20s, that I started to look for God about when I was 25. Whether you're religious or God-fearing or not, when I speak about him or the word daddy, take it as a learning thing. There's a place where I started to figure out there needed to be something bigger. There could not possibly be all the things that I've been through in my life and not turn out for something to happen. I've been blessed to have people at the right place at the right time where I've stood with women on Parliament Hill and talked about women's rights. There was just always something inside of me that knew I needed to be something or do something. And I think it was about my mid-20s or my early 20s. Yeah, my early 20s. My sister said the most powerful thing to me, and she said, is this going to be the thing that takes you down? Is this going to be the thing that takes you down? Think about everything that you have been through, and you're still standing. You've been hurt. You've been keeping things. You've been dealing with so many different things. When the next thing in life comes, is this going to be the situation that takes you down? And the answer was no. So every time I get to something, you know, if you're taking notes right now, if you're listening, remember that every single time something happens, you have the choice. Is this going to be the one thing that takes you down, that makes you give up on life, that makes you surrender it all? You've tried it. I've tried to take my life. It didn't happen. And so is this going to be the thing? Is this where you're going to be? And I get to make that decision. And those are one of the things that has helped me along my way in terms of continuously being resilient. When you look back at all the stuff that you've already been through, everything in life is meant to help you and grow you. Okay? We have this thing. I want you guys to take notes if you can or whatever. Not like I'm teaching you, but sometimes when we write things down, it helps us when we write, because we write it and we see it and we hear it. It applies more. But you have a choice in what it is that is going to keep you standing or what's going to take you down. You have that choice. You also have the ability to understand that when things are happening to you, that you have the ability to allow yourself to be in pain. One of the things that we don't talk about, one of the things that we really don't give ourselves or other people is the ability to grieve or go through something or deal with something. Life happens. It can be really, really shitty. Excuse my language, but it can. Christian and all, sometimes it can be really, really just things happen and it tears you down, or it overwhelms you, or it makes you anxious, or it scares you, or it makes you sad. These are feelings that you are allowed to have. Allow yourself the space to be in that for a minute, but don't stay in it. You have to find ways to continuously find your way out of it. I'm talking to you as someone that has been diagnosed from like severe to mildly depressed, that has sat there and just wondered what's going on, that has just cried for no apparent reason, just knowing that I'm not moving. Even after going through everything that I've been through at a younger age, and I thought that I was getting myself better to a place where I found myself with God, and I started to, I don't want to say heal, but I wanted to develop. I started to personally develop, but I did start to heal from some of the things that were happening. Having to forgive myself for, having an abortion, or not feeling that guilt or that anxious. Like, some people do, some people don't. I did. Not feeling bad about some of the choices that I made in my life, because at the time that was the only knowledge that I had. It was about knowing, if you only know A, B, and C, and A, B, and C may not necessarily be the best choices, but that's all you know. Why am I going to be mad at myself if I didn't learn out that D, E, F, G to Z was out there? If I was naive or lacked understanding and I took what I thought was the best choice out of the choices that I have, I can't be mad at myself. I have to just accept it and move on. I don't have to let it tear me down and keep me down. There's a place where I've had to learn how to be mindful of what I do, what I say, how I act. Like, mental health is now a really big issue out there. I'm so thankful that it is. That people don't understand that, 1 in 5, and there's people that the numbers are counting, and if you went and sat in a classroom, and classrooms now have 50 people, at least 10, 8 to 12 actually would probably at some point in time have been diagnosed depressed at some level, and either not know it, but have experienced it. This is not rare. And the reason why it's not rare is because things can get heavy on you, and you have to learn how to cope with them. We somehow, and I really don't know how this happened, but we started to think that we were going to have a fairy tale life. We started to think, we grew up, like we heard all the fairy tale stories. We heard about Sleeping Beauty. We heard about Cinderella. There's still all these princesses that are happening, and we just think that it's going to be this nice walk off and a white, a prince on a white horse is going to come and get us. And when what is actually part of life happens, we're so devastated and we don't know how to handle it, because our perception sometimes may be overlooked in two different ways, if I'm making sense when I say this. And when life really happens, we're just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this, or nobody told me about this. So this is, again, part of the reason why I'm having this conversation right now. And what's happening is that some of the things that I've had to learn is how to really deal with what is reality. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, there are times where things are just hard. And that's part of it. Like, there's different, Lord, give me the right words right now. There are different ways in terms of, there's different things that are going to happen. A lot of us assume that, I was having a conversation with somebody today, and she said, the future really scares her. She knew that there's a certain thing that you have to do in life. You grow up, you stay with your parents, you go to college, you go to university, you get your education, you go off and you get married. There's that order. But then she's like, I don't know what happens after that. And she's scared. And I'm like, she already doesn't realize, or we don't already realize, that there is a part of us that has already been equipped as we've been growing older. So there are times when we've been growing older as a teenager, or even in our years, even as a child, something just sporadically happens, and we've learned that this is part of life, and we've coped with it. We've learned that sometimes we need to be, we may need to get help. We don't talk about counseling. Let's talk about counseling for a minute. People underestimate what a counselor does. People underestimate the benefits of it. People think that, some people might think that it is actually bad for you. It's got a bad name. When you think of psychiatrists, and I want to separate the two right now. Psychiatrists and psychologists, two different things. Psychiatrist is the one that does the medicine, doesn't really give you all the counseling. Psychologist does. Counselors also do. And there's this place where, instead of burdening, I'll use the word burdening, your family and friends, because they are also dealing with life. This is a way for you to speak to somebody who won't be biased, who will give you different perspectives, who will challenge you and your thoughts and help you mold so that you can grow through this. Life is about personal development, learning what works for you, learning what doesn't work for you, learning what helps you. And having a counselor I'm honestly telling you guys, if you're listening to me, I would not be the person that I am if I didn't take the counseling, if I didn't go into groups. It helps you, it grows you, it molds you, it keeps you going. So anyways, I'm babbling on like this, my sincere apologies, because other things have happened in life that I didn't get into as yet that I'm going to explain right now. Not only with the ADD, the ADHD, and things like that, did I have problems with just me concentrating. I started to grow up. I did My Life as a Testimony. I've been in it for 10 years. 7 years into it, I was traveling across North America. I was traveling across Canada. I had plans to go into for 10 years. 7 years into it, I was traveling across North America. I was traveling across Canada. I had plans to go into car accident, just like that. And I can't get into the details right now about it, simply because there's still a case about it, so I'm not really going to get into it. But what has happened, that ever since this car accident, I have now been diagnosed with things like fibromyalgia, which means that I have to deal with pain every single day. I deal with, like, I'm having this conversation with you guys right now, and I look good. Yeah, I look good. I know, I'm stupid. But would you believe me if I told you that my spine hurt? And that I always have to be selective on where I sit to do something like this, because I need to make sure that I'm really comfy. So I might look good, but I'm still in pain as I'm having this conversation with you. 2 days ago, I was in a seizure flare-up for 12 hours straight. People don't know what you go through. Don't judge a book by its cover. Like, you're looking at me like, hey, girl, you look good. Yeah, but I was crying 2 days ago. Real cry. And that's what fibromyalgia does to me. I also have now, as I just mentioned, give me a second. Non-epileptic seizures, psychological non-epileptic seizures. So it means that my brain doesn't actually set off my seizures, but psychologically, like my mind, my emotions, my things like that. So when things get stressed out, when I get overwhelmed, when my body gets tense, when my fibromyalgia flares up, I actually start twitching. I actually start getting seizures. And not like drop seizures, but I might not be able to speak. I might have to use words or point. I've actually gotten to the place right now where I've been pushed around in wheelchairs at the age of, girl, drum roll please, at the age of 42. Yes, I'm 42. Hey, at the age of 42, at the age of 31, I have had to be, thanks, Kiki. Kiki's like, bam! At the age of 42, I get pushed around in a wheelchair when I have to go and travel. And that's hard. That's hard, having to know that I can't walk through an airport the way that I used to. It's hard to know that if I climb a flight of stairs, I could be seizuring. My body could be hurting. I could be like running out of air. I could be like I ran a mile. It's not cool anymore that when I get ready, like I look good right now, I had to stand in front of a fan to do this so that I didn't sweat out. Okay, people? This is the life that I'm living. But I had a choice. As much as I had the car accident, do I keep moving? Do I let the pain that has happened stop me from doing the rest of my life? My answer is no. My thing comes back to my sister saying, is this going to be the thing that takes you down? Honey, I love life. No. I camp, I swim, I go canoeing, I travel, I would go for rides, I go to cultural things, I watch my movies. No. No. And so what's really hard is people don't understand. Like I'm in a world where fibromyalgia and chronic pain, it hurts people. It leaves them depressed. It leaves them grieving. It leaves them with PTSD. These are things that I'm still dealing with right now. But it leaves them in a really dark place. And I know that darkness because I've already been there and I don't want to go back there, and I'm not going to let anything put me back there. So I got to put stuff in place in order for me to get up and rise every day. And this is what I want to talk to you about right now, about rising. So I've told you enough about the stuff that has happened to me in the past for you to understand that when I have this conversation with you right now, it's really about empowering you so that you can get up every morning and give yourself some blast. So we've already had the conversation about allowing yourself to be in a bad space for a bad moment, but deciding how to get out of it. What are your things to get out of it? What are you doing to accelerate yourself? What are you doing with your mind? What is your mindset? Is your mindset, woe is me? Is your mindset that every time something happens, woe is me? I can't believe this is happening. As one of my spiritual moms said, you ain't Jesus, so why is it that you don't go through stuff? If Jesus had to go through stuff, why don't you go through stuff? And again, if you're not spiritual, take it as educational. Who are you? Who are you to actually go through life and nothing bad ever happens to you? That you don't grow? That I was listening to Steve Harvey the other day, and this is part of the things that you have to do. What are you putting into yourself? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What is it that is educating you and motivating you so that you get up in that midst of your pain and remember that there's something that you're striving for, something that you're trying to achieve, something that you're trying to move towards, okay? Let's talk about, like, I was listening to Steve Harvey the other day, and he was talking about a seed. Do you realize that a seed has to go into dirt? It has to go into something. And what's really funny is we don't want to call it dirt. We want to call it soil. We want to call it soil because it's got all this stuff in it that's supposed to that's this full of nutrients. Excuse me, my brain fog's kicking in right now. The seed not only has to break out, but it has to grow into something. It has to battle the winds. It has to go through the seasons. It has to deal with, if nature has to battle all the different seasons, why can't we understand that we do as well? And why can't we appreciate these seasons instead of saying, woe is me? When you look back at your life, have you ever noticed that it's the hardships that have made you stronger? And I hate to say it, but it is. Because you, at that point, have to break through with that pressure on you to become something amazing. An oyster. An oyster is a piece of sand that goes into a clam. And it has to sit in there and it gets pressurized to become a pearl. Like, there are so many things in life around us that we adore and that we listen to or we watch that show us already that it's the pressure in life that grows us, that molds us, that turns us into something beautiful, that makes us so unique. And yet we fight it. We don't want to go through it. You want to be a millionaire, but start off with a penny, but wake up tomorrow as a millionaire. It doesn't work like that, right? There's a place where you have to give yourself the bly to know that you're not always going to get it right. I'm here to tell you, you aren't always going to get it right. That's okay. That's part of life. Accept it. Believe it. Be okay with it, that if you make a bad decision, are you willing to learn from it? That's the other thing. When things happen, are you willing to learn from it and move on? Are you willing to allow life to teach you its lessons, and that you can upgrade into another class or another level? Because you can't get to university if you don't pass grade 2, boo. If you don't know how to read, why are you trying to pick up a book that's like this big, that's got words that you don't even understand? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So there are things that you have to understand, that life dishes you different things at different times, and it'll amaze you. It'll amaze you what it is that you can grow from, how you can stand, how you can get a freedom that you've never had before. When you go through things, it defines you and it chisels you out, but it helps you define who you are. And the more you know who you are, the less other people can actually walk all over you. The less other people can say things to you. Because when people used to just yammer in my ear and tell me I wasn't going to amount to nothing, or I wasn't going to be anything, or that I was worthless, or whatever it was that they wanted to say, they can't step to me anymore. It's my me understanding and believing in myself. And how did I do that? Okay, let's get into that. I had to stand in front of a mirror, and I had to tell myself that I loved myself. And I didn't have to do it once or twice. I had to do it over and over, at least 10 times a day. You have to learn how to love yourself. You have to learn how to forgive yourself. There's actually something, I'm going to post it up. I'm going to write a note as I put this up right now. If you guys have questions, FYI, by the way, if you guys have questions, I'm going to be checking LinkedIn and Facebook. I don't know if you can post here on, on YouTube, but I'm going to see if I can see any notes. So if you got anything that you want to say to me, send a post, put it up. Let's see what's going on. Anyways, yeah. So let's talk about you are the only person that can give yourself the affirmation that you really need. I know it sounds really crazy, but we are looking for affirmation from so many other people. We really are. And there's a place where you just understand that you need to give yourself affirmation. Now, what's really funny is we can give ourselves affirmation when we look good. Yeah, I look fly. When, you've done certain things. But when it comes to like heart stuff, it's somehow really hard to do that. If I was to say to you right now, tell me 3 things people say are wrong with you. You could go 1, 2, 3. They say that I'm this, they say that I'm that. But if I was said to you, name 3 things that you're good at, or people say that you're good at, you'd be like, start listening to people. When they say to you, they give you a compliment. They're telling you something good. Start believing it. Stop pushing it out. Someone says you look good, say thank you. But you have to be able to look in the mirror yourself and be like, clearly you look good. Love yourself today. And believe it. You have to get into the place where you don't need to hear somebody else say that they love you, but I love you. And you say it again, I love you. And you say it again, I love you. And you have to do that in the mirror for yourself. And I don't know if you're a guy or a girl or if it's going to be hard, but you have to believe it. If you don't love yourself, it doesn't matter who comes along. It doesn't matter what somebody says. You're going to push that away. You have to be able to love yourself first. You have to be able to, and it takes time. It takes time. I'm going to tell you that as well. It's not going to happen overnight. There have been people that have put so many negative things into us for so long that it takes time for us to believe the positive side of stuff. And that's where inspiration needs to start coming in. Who are you following that you know will feed into you the good things that you can affirm for yourself? Or when you read it or you hear it or you watch it, you have the ability to be like, yeah, I can do that. Why can't I do that? Put yourself into surroundings of like-minded people who are trying to accomplish the same things that you are trying to accomplish. I've had to, unfortunately, at times, part from my family because at the time, I didn't have a voice to stand up for myself. And so they would feed into me negatively. And it's not that they meant to, it's what they knew. And I had to stay away for years to be able to feed into myself, to love myself, to get back to a place. So now when I'm interacting with them now and I have a different stance about who I am, they see it. And when they try to test it, I can stand up to it. And then they respect it because they know she's changed. She's really changed. Or and I do it in a respectful manner. That's another thing. Can we please have a conversation about you can still say what you need to say without actually like tearing a hole in somebody, without tearing them down. And I'm saying this because we hate it when people come and they talk to us in a certain way or belittle us. We hate it when they look down at us or they think that they're better than us. We don't like it. Why are we going to do it to somebody else? Yeah. Why are we going to do it to somebody else? We have to start learning that even though somebody may have come to you, they may not know better. I've learned that along the way too. There are some people, older people than us, they actually don't know better. And if somebody doesn't know something, you can't hold it against them, right? If somebody didn't have a proper, I won't say proper. If somebody just has a different journey than you, what might be common sense to you may not be common sense to other people. And there are things that you don't get that other people get and want to look at you and say that you're stupid, but they don't. They give you a belie because they understand that you might not understand something. So the same way that you would like to have empathy and sympathy put upon yourself, it's time that you do the same thing for other people, okay? Be a bigger person if you need to be. There's also a place where I want to talk to you about, coming back to your inspiration. Are you listening? What kind of music are you listening to? What is feeding into you? When you're having rough days, do you have an inspirationalist that you listen to? And I'm not talking about, like, there are some people that are on this that are watching me that are Christian, like I am. And we talk about worship and praise, but I'm just talking about, like, inspirational. Going to put you in a good mood. Who are the people that you can connect with? For those that are depressed, I'll come back to that. One of my pointers is when I'm depressed, I've learned when I'm starting to decline, I actually tell people, get me out of my house. Take me out. I'm not feeling well. Or I put myself into a safe place that's not going to keep me safed up in my house. I hate that. But I have to recognize it. That's another thing, assessing yourself. I know I'm jumping all over the place. My apologies. Assessing yourself. You have to learn how to assess what you're going through. What is affecting you, how you truly feel. A lot of us like to go through things. If you don't, one of the things that I have learned in being able to overcome and get through the stuff that I've gone through is actually having to acknowledge that I'm not okay, that I'm angry, that I'm upset. I have to acknowledge words. And once I acknowledge what's really happening, if there's anxiety, if there's whatever, finding the different ways to deal with it. Some people will go to the gym and knock it out. Some people will talk to people. But you have to find a way of getting it out and releasing it. You have to find a way from healing from it. You have to find a way from growing from it. These are the things that help you to address hardships in your life, and they're also the things that help you to keep moving. When you're able, and it's actually a same cycle all the time. A situation happens. You assess how you're dealing with it. You figure out how to get through it, right? Something else happens. You figure out what's going on. Like you assess what's going on with you, and you figure out what are the outlets that you need to be able to move from it. It keeps happening. That's what really life just keeps doing that. but we keep going, something else. Things are going to keep happening until you take your last breath. People are going to die. People are going to move away. Sometimes you're going to get hurt. Sometimes you're going to love and loss. Sometimes you're going to burn. Sometimes you're going to grow. Sometimes you're going to laugh. Sometimes you're going to laugh so hard that it hurts your back, you pee yourself. You know what I'm talking about. Life is full of both ups and downs, but understanding that it's both. Being okay that it's both. Understanding that sometimes what you think is a storm is actually a blessing. I have this story where there's this farmer, and he knows that he has to come home and he has to till the land. And he's tired because he just came from the market and he's tired. But he knows that if he doesn't till the land before the end of the night, that the season's going to change. And he's like, Lord, help me, But sometimes we have this thing where we think that it's going to be a certain way. So he has this, he thinks that people are going to come and help him. And instead of people coming to help him, in the distance he sees this tornado. And he's freaking out because he's like, I didn't ask for a tornado. What's happening right now? I need people to help me dig up my land. And there's a tornado. What's about to happen? And the tornado comes and he's holding on for dear life. And the tornado comes and it whirls everything around and he's holding and he's holding and he's holding. And then all of a sudden the tornado goes away. And then all of a sudden he turns around and the land is tilled. And that old tractor that's been sitting there that doesn't actually work, it's gone. And the tree stump that's been rooted for so long, he knew that he'd take forever to try and get out, is just dug up and it's moved. And it means that he can actually go and rest. But that happens to us sometimes, and we see that tornado or that storm coming, and we get so scared. Life hits us, and we're like, what the heck is happening right now? I don't need this right now. But what's so funny is that thing that you wanted to excel into, or you wanted to elevate into, or that you wanted to go into in a different place in your life, this situation actually comes, and it's exactly what you need, because through it, you develop or you tweak certain skills or you gain certain perspectives or you learn certain things. And that is what needs to help you grow and develop for that next stage where you're trying to get into your life. And it looks scary because that's not what you're expecting, but it's exactly what you needed. And there are times that when you look back at your life already, that when you look at that, you're able to be like, whoa, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't know certain things, or I wouldn't have certain resources, or I wouldn't have met certain people, or I would have bypassed something because I didn't have the time to get into it. Whatever the reason is, and you've grown from it. So if you know what I'm talking about, when a new situation comes up, when a new storm comes, why can't you try and trust that it's going to grow you again? It is going to be hard sometimes. Growth is hard sometimes. But sometimes it doesn't have to be. In your mindset on how you perceive it, how you let it affect you, how you react to it, also determines how painful it is. You got to remember that. There are times where we allow certain things to dig into us longer than it doesn't need to be, affects us in a way that it doesn't need to. We respond in a way that we don't need to. And that actually makes the situation and the issue harder, right? So it's about mindset. Mindset, are you having a positive mindset? If you don't know how to have a positive mindset, because at one point I didn't. I was like, I'm checking out. I didn't have a positive mindset. If I did, I wouldn't have tried to commit suicide. But then I had to look for other things, right? There are a lot of resources now. Now that we have the internet, there's Googling things that you're feeling with, resources. There's programs in the communities. There's nonprofits that are out there. There are churches. There are There's a lot of different things to help you. There's just so much. Okay, I'm going to take a minute right now. It's been crazy. I'm going to take a sip of my red wine. No, it's not red wine. I'm joking. I'm a stupid person if you haven't figured that out as yet. I am going to take a look at what's happening. If you have any questions, I'm going to ask you to post them right now. It's 10 o'clock. I don't want to keep you guys later than it has been. Oh, I want to tell you guys about a couple of things. So if you found my conversation interesting today, I'm hoping that we'll have more and we'll get into it in a different way. But I am actually, for the month of March, My Life is a Testimony is actually giving away free 20-minute life coaching sessions. And that gives you the ability to talk to me about something and to figure out if there's something that I might know, if I could be a resource or give you so much information. There's so much that I could tell you about that I can't even bring out in just an hour. There's so much knowledge that I have when it comes to, would you believe that I have my apprenticeship in carpentry? I have my basic website design. I've been having the My Life for 10 years. I've run other entrepreneurships. I'm just, I don't know. I'm saying that to say I haven't been able to talk about everything today. I haven't. But if you think that there is a way for me to help you, if there's a question that you have that you didn't want to post up tonight and you want to ask me something, there's so much information. If you check out my website, if you check out my link tree, you'll be able to see some of my videos. You'll be able to see some of my flyers and posters about what it is that I talk about. You can have a conversation with me. If there's somebody that you feel that needs to be able to have a conversation with me, or you're like, that person is going through something, or you might be able to connect with somebody, share this video, and then be able to maybe have a conversation with me or book them up. There is a link on my link tree that you would be able just to scroll at the bottom, say book an appointment, and we can have a conversation. I know that I'm jumping all over the place today. There's just so much I want to have a conversation about, which is why we are going to be having more real talk conversation. I'm trying to figure out which platform works best. People couldn't watch me on Facebook, so I brought it over to YouTube. I'm not sure how that's going, so I'll have to evaluate that later on tonight or tomorrow, just to see how that's going. And what else is going on? Oh, yes. Next month, beginning of April, we are actually going to be, the Real Talk conversation is really for my fibro fighters and my chronic pain sufferers and for my spoonies. And that is chronic pain in healthy relationships, or healthy relationships and chronic pain. But you get what I'm saying. I'm going to actually have some people that are going to be joining me. I got some special guests. Still working out a couple of things, and I don't want to tell you guys everything as yet. I want to keep a couple of things to myself. But if you are, let's see if we've got anything. Okay. Oh, we got a like. Thank you. We also have, that's coming up. That's a really good conversation. That is something that our fibro fighters out there aren't having conversations about. I am now unfortunately learning that, because now that I'm introduced to a world of chronic pain, and we need to start having some conversations, but I'm opening this to a lot of different people, because one of the things that I've learned is pain is pain. I might have physical pain, but there's psychological pain, there's spiritual pain, there's financial pain, there's emotional pain, there's physical pain, there's neglect, there's abuse. And trying to get through those, trying to overcome them, trying to grow from them, all of those things are how to overcome them, how to deal with them, how to stand for them. They all relate, but there's a lot of the same tactics and skills and mindsets that need to happen. So whether or you're a chronic pain sufferer or not, join the conversation, because truth be told, there's probably somebody that you know that has chronic pain. It could be arthritis, it could be fibromyalgia, it could be, what does she have? I have friends that have other life-sustaining illnesses. And so learn something, right? Because you never know when it might help you. But the real talk is really about having certain conversations. There's also, because I am celebrating my 10-year anniversary, for those of you that don't know, I am doing my Still Standing tour. You can catch some of these flyers on my website, or you can also send me a DM or a message at info@mylifeisaTestimony.com. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter. Tag is at MLIA Testimony. We're trying to bring out a couple of exciting things, and I actually have to do this from a place of a couch because I can't move as much as I wanted, but the brains and the beauty are still there. The body is just not. But and this is a great opportunity for us to have a conversation in terms of just what's happening. So let's see what I said. I've already told you about the 20-minute free coaching session, so jump on that or let somebody else know. I already told you about my hashtag. Already told you about what's happening next month. Final thing. Yeah. So I've decided that as much as I can't move as much as I'd like to, I like to do the mentorship. And so for the next quarter, I'm actually taking 7 mentors. And I want you guys to become like the best versions of yourself. Some days I get up and it's great and I'm good. Some days I get up and I feel like I'm walking on glass. But it's my mindset. It's about me still getting up. And I would love the opportunity to support other people in being able to do that, because there are things that we want to do. And the greatest stories, the people that we admire are the ones that actually went through something. If you're old school, you know that Michael Jordan was not Michael Jordan. They didn't think who he was. If you know, I know I'm into the Black people. It's Black History Month. I've been doing a whole bunch of stuff. Steve Harvey literally was living in his car before he became Steve Harvey and got his shot at the Apollo Theater on the same night that some other well-known people were there. Tyler Perry, I don't know if you guys know this. Tyler Perry was in a really bad position as well, and now he bought a naval base, and he opened up a studio. There were people that we watch and look at and we admire for their tenacity, their perseverance, their resilience. And they're actually out here willing to teach you how to become the best versions of your lives, how to be successful in your life, how to keep standing. If you are interested, I would love to help people do that as well. So send me a DM if you're looking for some mentorship. I'm working on a couple of different things right now. I'm not going to put it out there yet. I'm also, we're going to have this conversation, but yours truly is actually writing a book. Title is A Woman's Journey to, title is I'm Not Insane. I'm not insane. I was trying to save my life, a woman's journey to the psych ward. I'm actually writing from a first person's perspective in terms of me having to voluntarily admit myself into the hospital because I was having suicidal thoughts after my car accident. That's an interesting conversation. But I'm still here. And I'm still here, which means that you can still be here, which means that we are changing our perspective and understanding, like, a little bit more, and us loving ourselves more, forgiving ourselves more, giving ourselves a little more grace and mercy when it comes to life situations and choices. Being able to be just making life fun again and happy again. And as much as I'm going through stuff, still loving life. Like, don't you want to love life? I want to love life. I'm not sure about you, but I can still have conversations about all this stuff that has happened to me and still smile and be able to share the information so that if somebody else has gone through one of the many, many, many long things that I have been through, we can smile together. So I am 1 minute and 10 minutes over, not in the mood to keep going because I could go all day. I'm going to try, follow me on the WhatsApp. Let's have a little bit of fun. And that's it, you guys. Going to end off with a song. I have no idea what I'm going to pick. I'm just going to pick something. And from there, have yourself a blessed night. Again, my name is Khalilah Bruzual. My life is a testimony, and I hope that yours is too. Bye.